Hi there. Today we're talking about Annus Mirabilis by John Dryden. As the name suggests or implies, the name Annus Mirabilis, or the Year of Wonders or Miracles. The poem itself is about a year of miracles. John Dryden writes this poem to commemorate the events of the year 1666 in England. He begins with a focus on the conflicts between the Dutch and the English. Their navies were at war with one another until France faithfully intervened in favor of the British to decide the matter. These countries continued to maintain their rivalry. استمرت العداوة بينهم لسنين. And however, as the Dutch refused to allow Britain naval superiority. Eventually, however, في النهاية, they must cede to the English their due as the dominant global naval superpower. So Dryden then turns to the homeland, dealing with the loss of many of their beloved husbands and fathers at sea. The people are in mourning, في حالة حداد. Then the plague breaks out. بدأ يندلع كمان الطاعون، وباء الطاعون. People move to the country to try to avoid the plague's destructive swiftness. But only the truly wealthy are able to afford the resources to escape fast enough. لكن اللي قدر إنه ينجو من الطاعون بشكل سريع هو طبقة الأغنياء. The rulers of the day are unable to aid the people. والحكام ما كانوش قادرين إن هم يساعدوا الشعب because they are so concerned with their petty rivalries with neighboring countries. In fact, so many die that the nation is torn in pieces as its population dwindles. Then the fire occurs in London. وبعد كده جه حريق لندن. Dryden devotes lines and lines to chronicling the fire's destructiveness. فلقى Dryden نفسه بيكرس سطور وسطور من هذه القصيدة علشان chronicling إن هو يؤرخ أو يوثق the fire's destructiveness. It burns the majority of the city from the center and the Tower of London all the way to the Thames. Finally, the king ordered buildings in the center of town to be torn down to prevent further spread and the entire destruction of the city. The true tragedy هي إن الفقراء هم أكتر ناس اتدمروا في هذا الحريق. A portion of population which is devastated by the fire is mainly the poor because their houses are made of highly flammable materials and packed insufferably close together. وبيوتهم كانت معمولة من مواد قابلة للحريق بسرعة وكمان كانت ملصقة ببعضها البعض بشكل كبير. Still, thanks to the king's foresight, the rest of the city is spared what would have been a national crisis if it had too gone up in flames. With Annus Mirabilis, the Year of Wonders in 1666, John Dryden published his first major non-dramatic poem, utilizing the heroic quatrain format. In addition to its subtitle, The Year of Wonders, the work contained an explanation beneath the title identifying those wonders اللي هم إيه بقى historical poem containing the progress and various successes of our naval war under the conduct of His Highness Prince Rupert. Dryden labeled it a historical poem, okay, explaining in his introduction that which is well defined, of course, the happy result of thought or conduct of that imagination. He continues, but to proceed from wit in the general notion of it to the proper wit of a heroic or historical poem, I judge it chiefly to consist in the delightful imagining of persons, actions, passions, and things. The political aspects actually of the times were now portentous in the extreme. Charles II had partly by crime, partly by carelessness, and partly by ill fortune become a most unpopular monarch, and the more so because the nation had no hope even from his death, since it was sure to hand them over to the tender mercies of his brother. There was but one hope, and that turned out a mere Mirabilis, connected with the Duke of Monmouth, who through his extraction by a band sister from Charles, as well as through his popular manners, Protestant principles, and the gracious exterior, had become such a favorite with the people. So, partly, Annus Mirabilis, published in 1667, and counted justly one of his most vigorous, though also one of the faultiest of his poems. It includes a glowing, although somewhat quaint, description of the Dutch War and the Great Fire in London. The Great Fire of London raged from the 2nd of September to the 5th of September 1666, destroying homes of up to 70,000 inhabitants of the city. The death toll traditionally was thought to be small, with only 6 deaths recorded. This may, however, be a consequence of the social hierarchy of the time. He published in the same year, actually, an essay on dramatic poetry, vindicating his own practice of rhymed heroic verse in plays. The poem itself, Annus Mirabilis, contains 1,216 lines of verse, arranged in 304 quatrains. Each line consists of 10 syllables, and each quatrain follows an AB rhyme scheme, a pattern referred to as a decasyllabic quatrain. Rather than write in the heroic couplets founded in his earlier works, Dryden used the decasyllabic quatrain exemplified in Sir John Davies' poem in 1599. The style was revived by William Davenant in his poem, which was published in 1651. So Dryden will exhibit all of these ideas in his 304 four-line stanzas. He explains that he selects the quatrain in alternate rhyme because I have ever judged them more noble and of greater dignity, both for the sound and number, than any other verse. So naturally, in telling of miracles, a poet would select a format that imbued a dignified sense of pride. Acknowledging the simplicity of the couplet for easy rhyme, he explains that by contrast, in the quatrain, a poet is challenged to succeed. Poets correctly using this form must need acknowledge that the last line of stanza is to be considered in the composition of the first. So, as Earl Miner discusses, Dryden's purpose was to encourage readers that the source of England's woes lay in the past, in the country's enemies, and even in human nature. This proved important when speaking to a certain faction who blamed the war and the fire on divine retribution. They conceived history as a combination of God's acts and those of nature. And many believed a natural disaster, such as the fire that devastated London, was the result of God's displeasure with the restoration of the king to the throne. Portents also proved important, and Dryden combines these ideas in stanza 16 to suggest that God approved of the English action against the Dutch. He used the figurative language of metaphor to compare 2 comets sighted in November and December of 1664 to candles sent by angels to light the English way. To see this fleet upon the oceans move, angels drew wide the curtains of the sky, and heaven, as if there wanted lights above, for tapers made to glaring comets rise. So Dryden alludes again in stanza 22 to the fact that God took the side of the English in a battle, a fact admitted by the Dutch when they lose their commander. ودي بالفعل كانت a fact admitted by the Dutch themselves when they lose their commander. Sir John Lawson مثلا بيقول the chief blown up in air, not waves expired, to which his pride presumed to give the law. The Dutch confessed heaven present and retired. Heaven اللي هو God يعني أو God's power, and all was Britain the wide ocean saw. فإن stanza 192 Dryden seems to remind his readers بيفكر بقى القارئ that all sides in war may look to God as their guide. بيبصوا للإله كguide ليهم. As he imagined the thought of the Dutch كان أفكارهم إيه؟ The battered admiral too soon withdrew. Their battered admiral too soon withdrew. انسحب. Unthanked by ours for his unfinished fight. مش مشكور من الأدميرالز بتوعنا على الفايت unfinished بتاعته. But he, the mind of his Dutch masters knew, who called that providence which we called flight. As Dryden focused on 4 days of the Second War with the Dutch, he praised Prince Rupert and James, اللي هو Duke of York, later to become King James II, for their part علشان الدور اللي عملوه in settling it in England's favor, علشان الحرب تنتهي لمصلحة أو للفيفر بتاع إنجلاند. This aspect of the poem has caused the critics also to categorize it as a panegyric or a poem of praise, قصيدة مديح. ففيرست عرفنا انها historical، كمان عرفنا ان فيها جزء كبير جدا او اتنظر ليها we considered as a poem on praise, as Dryden writes in his introductory material of his 2 subjects. It's no wonder if they inspired me with thoughts above my ordinary level. He devotes much praise to the Duke of Albemarle as well, shaping powerful dialogue for the English. Then to the rest, rejoice, said he, today, in you the fortune of Great Britain lies. Among so brave a people you are they, whom heaven has chose to fight for such a prize. وكمان في السطور اللي بتقول if number English courages could quell, we should at first have shunned, not met our foes, whose numerous sails the fearful only tell, courage from hearts and not from numbers grows. فالشجاعة بتستقى من القلوب مش من العدد بتاع الجيش. Dryden also examined the part of art and science in improving humans' lot in life. The poem's opening line seeking to credit art for Holland's strength in thriving arts long time had Holland grown. كمان بيمتدح فيها الart, crouching at home and crawl when abroad. He also inserted a section subtitled Digression concerning shipping and navigation, in which he began stanza 155 by viewing nature's handmade art makes mighty things from small beginning group. بيمتدح فيها الطبيعة وقدرتها وسماها فن. Dryden next inserts an apostrophe to the Royal Society, the group formed under King Charles II, of which Dryden was a member, اللي كان من ضمنهم Dryden نفسه, to investigate the many new scientific developments اللي بيمتدح فيها التقدم الهائل في العلوم في القرن ال18. He urges his audience to recognize the importance of study. ففي stanza 166 بيقول Oh royal, truly royal, who behold the law and rule of beings in your maker's mind, and thence like limbics rich ideas draw to fit the leveled use of humankind. Just before stanza 209, Dryden inserts the subtitle Transton to the Fire of London. He reminds his readers of the pride the English felt after the defeat of the Dutch and the English sailors, looting of Holland's fleet, then suggests in stanza 210, we urge an unseen fate to lay us low and feed their envious eyes with English loss. So, describing the death and devastation brought on by the fire, he focuses on the actions of King Charles and his brother James, who received much credit for saving London وأنسب ليهم أو أعزى ليهم إنقاذهم للندن. Of the king he writes in stanza 241, he wept the flames of what he loved so well, and what so well had merited his love, for never prince in grace did more excel, or royal city more in duty strove. Then Dryden makes the point in line 966 that unlike the people who could indulge in a numb terror, the king must act. Subjects may grieve, but monarchs must redress. So Charles ordered that several buildings be exploded with gunpowder in order to form a breach to stop the flames. Dryden describes the results using personification في stanza رقم 245 لما قال the powder blows up all before the fire, the amazed flames stand gathered on a heap, and from the precipices brink retire, afraid to venture on so large a leap. فالبلان نجحت and some of London was saved, although the flames طبعا continued to wreak havoc, described with a vivid imagery and the use of alliteration في الستانزا رقم 249. No help avails, for Hydra like the fire lift up his 100 heads to aim his way. By night when Charles is exhausted he calls on James for help. بدأ إن هو يستدعي أخوه للمساعدة. The days were all in this lost labor spent, and when the weary king gave place to night, his beams he to his royal brother lent, and so shine still in his reflective light. كل دي طبعا سطور في مديح الكينج وأخوه. Dryden conducts a bit of wordplay with the term light. Humans generally depend upon flame in the controlled forms of candles and lanterns to light their way, but in this instance the ruler provides the metaphorical light to brighten a symbolic as well as literal dark hour in which London is tried by disaster. As a lesser body like the moon reflects the sun's light, James, a crucial person but not yet a king himself, reflects his brother's light to great advantage for them both. يعني زي بالضبط دور الشمس والقمر بيعكس هو دور الملك وأخوه. As the fire at last burns out, Dryden suggests in stanza 293 that as when fire is applied to ore to remove its impurities, London will be golden in its reincarnation. Methinks already from this chemic flame I see a city of more precious mold, rich as the town which gives the English name, with silver paved and all divine with gold. The poem concludes with an emphasis بتنتهي بتأكيد على مستقبل لندن as a great trade seaport ومستقبلها الملاحي بالإضافة لذلك interacting with the countries once its enemies وبتتفاعل مع الدول اللي كانت قبل كده متخذاها عدوة. Mainly through Dryden's energy, the poem concludes on optimistic note despite the desolation it has described. فالقصيدة بتنتهي بتون مليء بالأوبتيميزم على الرغم من الأحداث اللي ذكرت فيها وكان فيها مجموعة من الدمار والأحداث السيئة. So in the end I need you to discuss the background of John Dryden, life and literary style. Also, I need you to think thoroughly about the main themes and technique employed in Annus, Mirabilis, and of course I need to understand or tell the main figures of speech that distinguished the poem from any of the poems related to historical events. Okay, see you next time inshallah. Good luck.